All right, guys. So just like the Democrat Party, the current state of the GOP is a quagmire, to say the least. And the reason why is because it has become blatantly obvious to anybody who's paying attention to what's going on in court, to anybody who's paying attention to what's going on with the establishment politicians, that they are ready to get rid of Trump. And I do believe that if the outcome happens that they want or that they think is going to happen, they're going to try to distance themselves from President Trump moving forward. And evidence of this is the fact that you're seeing more mainstream establishment Republican politicians, for example, even those who work with President Trump, even those who served as an advisor and have worked with the administration, such as Christie, have now come out and are against President Trump when it comes to fighting this legal battle. Before we get in that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. But right before we get into this, guys, most of you guys know I am currently fighting a war on flushable wipes because they actually clog your pipes. Local municipalities can spend more than $1 million per year cleaning out these unflushable wipes, and it could cost you thousands of dollars in plumbing if you're currently using flushable wipes. My solution to this problem is called Ashi. Ashi is a home system that is designed to create eco-friendlier flushable wipes. It's very simple. It looks great in any bathroom and would make the perfect gift this Christmas holiday season for friends or family, or even for yourself. If you're looking to upgrade your wipe or eco-friendly alternative to flushable wipes, check out Ashi at ashihome.com. 10% of net proceeds will go to Toys for Tots. All right, guys. So I'm about to show you guys a video, okay? And the video is going to be Christie talking about why he's not supporting President Trump in his legal battles, and also other establishment politicians and what they're currently saying, okay? I'm just saying this is what the mainstream media is saying, just as a disclaimer here. Roll the tape.
The president's response was to attack Pat Toomey on Twitter. Is it finally time for this to end?
Yes. And here's the reason why. The president has had an opportunity to access the courts. And I said to you, you know, George, starting at 2:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, if you've got the evidence of fraud, present it. And what's happened here is, quite frankly, the conduct of the president's legal team has been a national embarrassment. Sidney Powell accusing Governor Brian Kemp of a crime on television, yet being unwilling to go on TV and defend and lay out the evidence that she supposedly has. This is outrageous conduct by any lawyer. And notice, George, they won't do it inside the courtroom. They allege fraud outside the courtroom, but when they go inside the courtroom, they don't plead fraud and they don't argue fraud. This is what I was concerned about at 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday night. Listen, I've been a supporter of the president's. I voted for him twice. But elections have consequences. And we cannot continue to act as if something happened here that didn't happen. You have an obligation to present the evidence. The evidence has not been presented. And you must conclude, as Tucker Carlson even concluded the other night, that if you're unwilling to come forward and present the evidence, it must mean the evidence doesn't exist. That's what I was concerned about starting on election night. And I remain concerned today. I think it's wrong. I think what you've heard lots of Republicans starting to say this. I said it on election night, and I hope more say it going forward, because the country is what has to matter the most. As much as I'm a strong Republican and I love my party, it's the country that has to come first.
The latest blow out of Pennsylvania, where a judge delivered a blistering ruling, calling the campaign's claims haphazardly stitched together like Frankenstein's monster. The state's Republican Senator Pat Toomey calling on the president to accept the outcome of the election, saying he has exhausted all plausible legal options. And Maryland's Republican Governor Larry Hogan saying he's embarrassed more members of the party aren't recognizing Joe Biden as president-elect.
I just don't think there are a lot of profiles in courage. We all know how vindictive the president can be.
But it appears more Republicans are starting to come to terms with reality. Senator John Cornyn now saying it's time for Biden to start receiving intelligence briefings.
All right, guys. So you can see that's what the mainstream media is saying. Now, Mark Levin, who's a conservative commentator, had fired back directly at Christie and basically said, let's see. Georgie invites Christie on his show. Predictably, Christie trashes Trump's lawyers and Hogan, the Maryland governor who voted for Reagan this last election, and Toomey, who was involved in the appointment of the Pennsylvania judge who should not have dismissed that case, are also critical. None of these three nitwits have addressed what the Democrats have done in these states to make it extremely difficult for a Republican presidential nominee to win these states again. And none of them have any concern at all about the constitutional issues. I understand that this is hard and that the pressure can be unbearable for some, but there are several very important matters at stake. And I would add the Dems plan to destroy the federal constitution as applies to the Supreme Court, the makeup of the Senate, and the Electoral College. They bloviate on TV, beat their chest in righteous indignation, and then pat themselves on the head. They know how to play the media game, but they are not in the fight, and they have no idea how to fight. They are also making it easier for judges and justices to bail, which is becoming a huge problem. I'm so sick and tired of these political charlatans. As if a couple more weeks to let these things play out would somehow do grave damage to the country, as opposed to what the Democrats are doing to our institutions. Meanwhile, these players were either silent throughout the Democrat media, Russia collusion hoax, and all the rest of the outrageous abuses, the power that went along with it, or they were involved in it like Georgie. Now, they lecture the president's lawyers and the rest of it. They can stick it. All right, that's Mark Levin, who is responding to Christie and him going after Trump's legal team. Now, here's how I feel about this. I think that what he's saying is the right thing in terms of just let it play out. I think at the end of the day, these established Republicans need to realize that they are going to alienate a large part of this party if they continue to attack the president in such a direct way. Right? And it's probably better for them just to chill, let it play out, and just whatever happens, happens. Right? Worst case scenario for them is that, okay, the president was wrong. Best case scenario is that he was right. If he was right, then you keep the presidency. And if he was right, you also may boost you in terms of, your chances of winning the Senate in Georgia. But if he's wrong, right, and it turns out that this is not true, in the worst case scenario, nothing happens. President Trump and the campaign team may look like they lied. And they might have egg on their face. Who knows how people are actually going to react? I don't know at this point. But if they're wrong, then, okay, you might lose the Senate. It might be an embarrassment for the Republican Party. But because you let it play out and you didn't actively try to fight it, then you're not going to alienate a ton of the party, right? To the point where they may just say, forget the Republican Party as a whole. Because if this doesn't work out, it seems like President Trump has made plans to try to run in the future. So it's not like President Trump is going anywhere. He's still going to be there. So the Republican Party, if they want to not alienate their base, will be smart to just let it play out. Because if you actually try to fight President Trump on this, then you're going to be in danger of alienating an overwhelming majority of the party. So if you lose the whole party, then what happens is that essentially you give runway for the Democrats to essentially do whatever they want to do with little to no opposition. So this is very dangerous territory here for the Republican Party. I mean, just from a straight analytical perspective, just from a take a step back, just looking at it, I think that over time, what we're going to see here is that as these court cases continue to kind of play out and the legal battles continue to play out, depending on what happens with them and how the president responds, the Republicans may or may not continue to take an even harsher stance against the president and come out even more against the president because they want him to fall in line. They want him to fall in line behind the establishment agenda. That's how it's always been. And if he doesn't do that, then they're going to show him the door. And that's essentially what's happening. So I'm just telling you guys because I feel like this is almost very likely to happen given how things are going at this point. And we should be aware that down the road, we may have to make a choice in between whether or not you're going to support the establishment Republicans or whether we're going to stay behind President Trump. So I think Mark Levin is giving Christie and the other establishment politicians some really good advice here. Y'all need to just chill out. Don't say anything. Just let it rock. And the court will reveal ultimately if the Trump campaign has evidence and they can prove this. And we will see what happens. And at that point, that is now the appropriate time to react once we know what the full truth is. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.